Hello, my name is Jeff Baldwin. I am a doctoral student from Capital Technology University. I'm currently conducting research on cyber supply chain risk management, specifically the current adoption of NIST-IR, or Interagency Report 8276. So let me pull open my website here and I'll share my screen. So what I'm really looking for is I'm about 60% done with the research. I'm looking about for another 40% to kind of get a good sample size of this data that I'm looking for. But if you visit C-SCRM.org for cyber supply chain risk management, it'll bring you to this webpage. And this webpage is your informed consent. It tells you more about the study, background information about the study, specifically that NIST-IR 8276 has 24 recommendations, and those are mapped against 8 key practices. So in this survey, we'll be asking you about those 24 recommendations and those 8 key practices, as well as some biographical sort of information. It's not going to identify you per se, but I'm going to use that kind of categorically so I can lump some data and test some hypotheses that I have. So if you agree to the study, and really what I'm looking for, the ideal participant is somebody that is knowledgeable about the C-SCRM practices at your organization. So if you know what you're currently doing, that would be the ideal person. So if you know that, it'd be great to do it. And another thing worth noting is we're just looking at kind of what status you're in. So I have some questions that ask about whether you're planning to implement or you plan to implement it or it's already implemented. So kind of some of that information is in there, and it's fine if you say, no, you never plan to implement it, you're not going to do it. That's also valuable data to collect because we're really just kind of seeing a gauge of where organizations may be. So once we kind of have that information and I aggregate it together, I will release it on cscrm.org so you can then look at how the averages are for the participants in the study, and then you can compare yourself against them. So that's kind of one of the goals of the study, is to provide feedback back to NIST and say, all right, you developed 8276 based on 25 case studies. Here's some additional data points to show really how wide or not wide that those implementations are. So some key points here is that it's voluntary. You don't have to answer a question if you don't want to. There's 46 questions. There's no risk to participate. Again, we're not going to identify you. It's all anonymous, so it's not going to go back to your employer that you identified that you're not doing any C-SCRM, and there's no compensation. Any other questions, you can always reach out and contact me. And then on this page, at the very end is the SurveyMonkey link that you can go to. And you can always preview the questions before you decide you want to participate, right? So there's those 46 questions. It says 30 minutes or less. Based on the averages of the people that have already taken it, it's taken about 8 minutes. So that should more be about 10. So that's kind of my misestimation when I created this. I figured it would take a little bit longer, but since all the questions are multiple choice and not free form, it kind of goes a little bit quicker. So kind of that first question, are you voluntarily taking this, right? So are you consenting to it? And then that first category, remember, is kind of the biographical data that kind of helps me to gauge, does the size of your organization, have a factor on how you answer these questions, right? And then the key practices, remember I mentioned there's 8 of them. And that kind of, a Likert scale here. So you can agree or disagree with statements, and that'll kind of give an average score there. And then the last section is those 24 recommendations. And then I ask it, because I have interest in whether it's you don't have any plans to, because up here you can say you disagree that you're doing these things, but down here I'm interested if you are implementing or planning to implement it, so you can plan or no plan. So that's information, interesting data for me to collect, and I'm interested in seeing the results. And I appreciate anything that you can do to help get more participants, whether you want to share this with your network or not. Or if you're able to, complete it yourself, that'd be great. Because I have been using LinkedIn and Twitter and Reddit to kind of solicit, but with LinkedIn, the algorithm is really bad. So if you post something, it's gone in like seconds and nobody sees it. So, you can post it in your group with 60,000 people and you might have, 10 views. So, all right. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.